Good morning, interwebs, and welcome to a Lemon's Life Studio. In today's vlog, I am starting something that I think might become a series. I'm calling it FreEDIT Fridays. It's a free editing tip from a Lemon's Life Studio every single Friday where I'm going to talk about a tip, a trick, a tactic, a technique that is involved in video and video production. The reason why I'm trying to do a series around editing and technology and things like that is because I know that not everybody on the channel wants to hear about those things, so I've gotten a few comments on that. What I am going to do is try to give a day or two where I'm devoted to that so that I can continually bring something. If you're wanting some specific type of tip or trick that video production has in it, like, hey, how do you green screen well, whatever it is, you can always comment that and I will try to add it to the list of things to do on FreEDIT Fridays. If you're wondering why I'm saying FreEDIT, see, it's like Friday FR and then dash edit, so it's like Friday edit, so it's FreEDIT Friday, and I know it's like repeating a word, you know, so I'm not a linguist, but I think FreEDIT Friday sounds pretty good. So on FreEDIT Friday today, we are going to talk about something that is cornerstone to good video production. And that's this setup right here. It's lighting. So as you can see all around me, I've got all kinds of lights. And it gives you a good quality image like this. A good well-lit key light on this side that's softened, that's not so harsh. I can, all right, so that is an unsoftened light. Like, it's very, it's not as flattering as that would be. See, this is a softened key light. So I've got a key light, which is my main source of light. And on this side of me, I have a fill light. And a fill light can be dimmed. It can be a little brighter, a little lighter. You can change the color a little bit to give yourself a little bit of offset on the fill. But the important thing about this is if you look right here, I've got a fill light on me now. It kind of fills in, gives me a little bit of light. You can see a shadow that casts across my face. It's diffused. Without diffusion, it'd be harsh, just like that last thing. Now, if I turn off that fill light, you're gonna see it's just much darker. It's not as inviting. There we go. I like that. So I've got a key light and a fill light. Now, for most production, that's good enough. That's all you're gonna need. I've got a few other extra lights around. I've got 2 lamps that I typically turn on, and those lamps help to just give some body to the background. And then I've also got lights that light the background. So for example, this LED here, that's just on a clamp, a cheap little clamp, and you can do this with, you know, little fixtures you can get from Home Depot. I just point that there and I block that with my face. That way it gives me a little bit of light separation behind me. You guys have seen that before. I need to turn that one up a little bit, in my opinion. Yeah, that's better. So now you see some more light separation behind me, and that gives some depth to you guys. So lighting, oh, one more light. I've got my Yongnuo 216, which has got a blue filter on it. I'll talk about these lights that I own and how much they are in another FreEDIT, but this blue light is shining up here and giving a nice little blue silhouette behind me, which is, I don't know, I kind of like it. The point that I'm trying to make is that lighting can shape your entire environment. For example, if I were to turn off this key light like you just saw, it would be much darker. If I were to turn off this blue light, let me do that real quick. Take some of the depth away from behind me. That's kind of nice, I like it, but I really like adding another color and texture behind me. And the cool part is, that's adding blue texture behind me. I've got these fins on the side here, so if that's casting any blue on me, I can put that fin up, blocks that blue out, good to go. I've seen a lot of video productions over the years that didn't really take advantage of lighting the way that it should. And the problem is the camera they were using had really bad lighting adjustments. What I mean to say is it didn't have a big aperture, and so they had to turn the ISO all the way up. So maybe a night shot music video type of thing, or sitting inside of a studio like this where it's not well lit. And you'll notice there's a lot of grain in those pictures. There's a lot of pixelation, it's not very clear, it's not very focused. And the reason that's happening is because the camera has to have its ISO, or that digital increase of light on the sensor, cranked all the way up. And as a result of that, you're getting grain. You're getting artificial artifacts into the image. You want, again, to turn that ISO as low as you can get it. That's why another thing that people use in bright lighting conditions when they can't close that aperture enough, they can't get the pupil of the camera small enough, they'll use things like ND filters, which is a whole nother FreEDIT. Today, we're gonna keep it to the lighting in the studio. Foundational things are huge. Now, I use some lights that I've gathered over the years, and some of them are a little bit more expensive, a little pricey. I can tell you that a few of them are not as pricey, not as expensive. I've got two lights that are, oh, hang on, I'll show you. These right here are stinking amazing. And they're like $40, $45 each. 40 when they're on sale, 45 normally. And they're made by Aperture, and it's the ALM9, and it's the Amaran. And I think that's how you say it. Let me see if I can get it in focus here so you guys can see that. If you go on Amazon and you search for this little guy, it will change your production. So I'm gonna turn this on real quick and show you. It's pretty darn bright. That's actually on the low setting. That's on the high setting. And I've got two of them again. So bam, bam. Now I have these two lights set up. Let me shut them off real quick. All right, that would be really, really good if I was in a horror movie, but I take these two Aperture lights and I could hold this Aperture light right about here. And if I could get some diffusion, that would be really nice. And I could put this one out about here, pull this one in a little bit, and look at what I have. With these two little tiny lights, let me adjust this one a little bit more, there we go. With these two little tiny lights, I have got my fill and I've got my key light. How amazing is that? These two little lights can change your entire video production. Now, if you're out on set and you're doing like a music video or something, or you're doing some kind of night shot, you have to have a couple people who can handle these lights and who understand that their placement is super important to the image. If I were to move this light a little bit more this way, you would get a lot more cast shadow, and I would have to move this light this way if I wanted to fill the face, this way if I wanted to create some more of that buzzy buzz thing. Or if I wanted to, I could actually just use one key light and use one of these as a backlight behind me if I could get my arm to... My arms don't bend that way. That's why you need lights and roadies. All right, let me turn on the main lights again. Sorry, I digress. And just like that, we're back to normal. But again, these little lights are amazing. And then if you really wanted to do something cool, you could do this. And add a little back accent light on that shelf right there. It's not a ton, but it adds just another dimension of lighting behind me. So as I move around, you can see a little bit more of the studio. So lighting can change your whole production. And so on this first FreEDIT Friday, I would say this: ensure that the lighting matches the camera. Some cameras, some lenses are much better in low light. The lens that I'm shooting on both of these cameras, are set up at 3.5. That is the lowest aperture you can go. Now, the lower the number, the bigger the hole in the camera lens. It's confusing, I know. But essentially think about it this way. You have a pupil in your eye, you have a pupil in your lens. The pupil in your eye, as it gets bigger, is a smaller number. Kind of like golf, the smaller number wins. This lens has a 3.5 aperture maximum opening at the smallest range because it's a telescopic lens. So when it's the widest, it has the biggest aperture capability. When it's the tightest, it has the smallest aperture capability. And that's just because of the way the telephoto works. On this lens, the Nifty 50, this one I have is 1.4 night shots. Bro, if you want to do some night shooting, a 50 millimeter at 1.4 or something that's capable of 1.8 like the Sigma, if you're using the EF lens, or the Canon lenses that hit 1.8 that are telephoto, those lenses, let me just tell you, 1.4, 1.8, great for night shooting. I can go into an almost dark environment with this lens, and that aperture is so stinking big that I can get all kinds of light through it. Let me see if you can see that. Ooh, that's a dirty lens. Look at the size of the glass in that. That is a big, big lens. Now, conversely, the 18 to 35 that I'm using here has a much smaller aperture capability. Okay, let me put them side by side and I'll move them through. So you got, let me see, that one there and that one there. Look at the difference. Look at how much more light will come through that. So when you're talking about doing low light shooting, you need to get something that has a 1.8, 1.4 aperture on your camera. And so that's the power of a DSLR, is I can change and I can get a more expensive lens that helps me get a much better shot. Now this lens that's on this camera, it's the same lens. I have two of them. That lens right there works great when it's lit well. That ISO is sitting at 200 right now, so is this one. That aperture is at 4.5, that one's at 4.5. So these two cameras are dialed in for this lighting environment. Perfect, no problem. If I wanted to do anything darker than this and get detail, I couldn't use either one of these lenses because they're both only capable of 3.5. Okay, that is it for the very first FreEDIT Friday. That's what I have for you, lighting. Just a few tips, again, just to rehash, we got our key, we got our fill, we got our backlight and accents. That's how I typically light an environment regardless of where I am, and it always changes. Yesterday's vlog, if you didn't watch it, was I messed up, now what? Because yesterday I was shooting a video on lighting. It was so bad. And so this is what Ian said. So this vlog really hits home. As of October, I started doing data entry at Moose Jaw Mountaineering. Yeah, that silly place like REI that sells expensive jackets. But aside from that, I was faced with learning Excel or quitting. I don't quit. Good for you, Ian. Don't quit. So for the last 3 months, I've been working with Excel on a daily basis, and what I thought was a wall I couldn't climb became second nature. Good for you, man. It takes effort every day, and you will achieve the things you set out to achieve. With repetition and dedication, and buyers yelling at me, yeah, that's also motivation, about incorrect data, I got my feet under me. Good for you, Ian, that's awesome. And now he gives some names, potentially, for the mug. The Beard of Odin. The Goblet of Valhalla. Christ's Beard? It's also good that the beard holds coffee. Beard to the Bone. I kind of like Beard to the Bone too. I don't know, those are good ones. I think that we can come up with some other ones to give Ian a run for his money. Ian, I like a couple of those a lot, and I'll be honest, one of them might actually make it. And like that, the first FreEDIT is in the books, as they say. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you, Ian, for the comment yesterday. Comment below. I may read your comment tomorrow. And, help me to come up with a name for El Mugzo here. El Mugzo. That might be a good one too. All right, I digress. Have yourselves a great FreEDIT Friday.